Welcome, dear friend. I know you watched this video to fall asleep, so before that, like, comment, and share this video. Also, where are you from, and what time is it where you are from? Buddhism presents us with a beautiful contradiction. It is a religion that questions the very nature of religion itself, a spiritual path that ultimately points beyond spirituality, a teaching that encourages us to let go of all teachings. As you settle into this moment, feel your breathing naturally slow and deepen. The Buddha himself said that his teachings were like a raft, useful for crossing the river of suffering, but meant to be left behind once the other shore is reached. Tonight, we will discover why Buddhism has been called the religion of no religion, exploring how this ancient wisdom tradition offers not another set of beliefs to cling to, but a way of seeing that dissolves the very foundations of clinging itself. Feel the weight of your body against your bed, the gentle rhythm of your breath, as we journey together through teachings that have brought peace to countless souls across 25 centuries. The story begins in ancient India, where a young prince named Siddhartha sat beneath a tree and awakened to a truth so profound that it would transform how humanity understands the nature of existence itself. But this awakening was not the discovery of a new religion. Instead, it was the recognition of something that had always been present, always available, yet hidden by our very attempts to grasp and categorize reality. Buddhism differs fundamentally from other spiritual traditions in its approach to ultimate questions. Where many religions offer answers about the nature of God, the afterlife, or the purpose of existence, Buddhism offers something more radical. It offers a way of questioning that dissolves the questioner himself. This is why the great Zen master Huangpo declared that the foolish reject what they see, not what they think, while the wise reject what they think, not what they see. Imagine for a moment that all your beliefs, all your concepts about spirituality and meaning were like clouds passing through the vast sky of your awareness. Buddhism invites us not to chase these clouds or try to hold onto them, but to recognize the sky itself, the unchanging awareness that witnesses all phenomena without being touched by them. This awareness requires no belief, no faith, no adherence to doctrine. It simply is. The Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment was the Four Noble Truths, yet even these fundamental insights were offered not as dogma to be believed, but as medicine to be applied. The first truth acknowledges that life contains suffering, dissatisfaction, and impermanence. The second reveals that this suffering arises from our attempts to grasp and control what cannot be grasped or controlled. The third promises that this suffering can end. The fourth outlines a practical path toward this liberation. Notice how these truths make no claims about supernatural beings, divine plans, or metaphysical realities. They are simply observations about the human condition, as empirical and verifiable as any scientific hypothesis. You can test these truths in your own experience right now, in this very moment. Feel into any area of tension or resistance in your body or mind. Notice how it arises from wanting things to be different than they are. This is the living truth of Buddhist teaching, available for direct investigation rather than blind acceptance. The path Buddhism offers is called the middle way, not because it represents a compromise between extremes, but because it transcends the very thinking that creates extremes. Where conventional religion might say, believe this or reject that, Buddhism asks us to step beyond the framework of belief and rejection entirely. This is why it can be practiced alongside any religion or no religion at all. It is not competing with other spiritual paths, but pointing to the source from which all genuine spirituality springs. In Zen Buddhism, this non-religious quality becomes even more pronounced. Zen masters throughout history have shocked students with statements like, "If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him," or "Buddhism is like a finger pointing at the moon." Doxical teachings are designed, don't mistake the finger for the moon. These parade to shatter our tendency to turn even the most liberating insights into rigid concepts to be defended or promoted. The great Zen teacher Dogen wrote that to study Buddhism is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. This forgetting is not a loss but a recognition. When we truly investigate what we call the self, we discover something extraordinary. We find awareness itself, pure and simple, without the need for any identity or story to support it. This awareness is not Buddhist or non-Buddhist, religious or non-religious. It simply is what it is, requiring no name or category. As you rest here tonight, consider how this understanding might transform your relationship with spirituality itself. What if awakening were not about becoming someone special or achieving some elevated state, but about recognizing what you already are beneath all the layers of conditioning and belief? What if enlightenment were not a distant goal to be attained, but the very ground of being that is reading these words right now? Buddhism teaches that all phenomena arise from emptiness and return to emptiness. This emptiness is not a blank void, but a fullness so complete that it cannot be grasped by conceptual thinking. It is the space in which all experiences appear and disappear, the silence in which all sounds arise and fade. You don't need to believe in this emptiness or understand it philosophically. You can simply rest in it as it rests in itself, naturally and effortlessly. The Buddha compared his teaching to medicine prescribed by a physician. Once the illness is cured, the medicine is no longer needed. Similarly, once we recognize our true nature, even Buddhism itself becomes unnecessary. This is perhaps the most radical aspect of this tradition. It aims at its own dissolution, pointing consistently toward a freedom that needs no support from concepts, practices, or identities. This non-religious quality of Buddhism makes it uniquely suited for our modern world, where many people feel alienated from traditional religious structures, yet still sense a deep longing for meaning and connection. Buddhism offers a way of engaging with these fundamental questions without requiring subscription to any particular worldview or belief system. It invites direct experience rather than faith, investigation rather than acceptance, awakening rather than salvation. In the stillness of this moment, you can taste this freedom for yourself. Notice how your awareness naturally rests in itself, requiring no effort or technique to simply be present. This presence is not something you create or maintain. It is what you are before any attempt to become something else. It is the religion of no religion, the path of no path, the teaching that points beyond all teachings to the simple fact of being itself. The beauty of this approach is that it liberates us from the burden of having to be spiritual or religious or enlightened. We don't need to cultivate special states of consciousness or achieve particular levels of realization. We simply need to recognize what is already here, what has never been absent, what cannot be improved upon or diminished. This recognition is available to everyone, regardless of background, belief, or spiritual experience. As we continue our exploration tonight, we will discover how this paradoxical wisdom of Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, offers profound healing for the modern soul. We will explore how letting go of the need to be someone special opens us to the extraordinary ordinariness of awakened living. We will see how releasing our grip on spiritual achievement allows genuine spiritual maturity to unfold naturally, like a flower opening to the sun. The journey we are taking together is not about adding something new to your understanding, but about recognizing what has always been present. It is not about becoming Buddhist, but about discovering the Buddha nature that is your deepest identity. It is not about joining a religion, but about awakening to the sacred dimension that pervades every moment of ordinary life. Let your breath continue its natural rhythm as we prepare to go deeper into this mystery. Feel your body settling more completely into rest, your mind growing quieter and more spacious. The teachings we will explore together have the power to transform not through belief, but through recognition, not through effort, but through relaxation into what is already true. Buddhism, the religion of no religion, invites us into this recognition tonight. It asks nothing of us except the willingness to see clearly, to question deeply, and to rest in the vast awareness that we have always been. This awareness needs no protection, no promotion, no special conditions to reveal itself. It is as available in this moment as it will ever be, as complete in your current experience as it could possibly become. Buddhism reveals itself most clearly not in temples or monasteries, but in the simple recognition that what we seek has never been hidden. As your body continues to relax into this moment, consider how this ancient tradition emerged from one man's profound questioning of all spiritual traditions. The Buddha did not set out to create another religion. He sought to understand the very mechanism by which human beings create suffering for themselves, and in doing so, discovered something that transcends all religious categories. The word Buddha itself means simply one who is awake, Lam, not awake to some special spiritual reality, but awake to what is actually happening right here, right now. This awakening is not a mystical experience reserved for special people, but the natural state of awareness when it is no longer clouded by the constant mental commentary that usually dominates our experience. Feel how your awareness right now is naturally present, naturally aware, without any effort on your part to make it so. In traditional Buddhism, there are said to be three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Yet even these fundamental concepts dissolve under careful examination. The Buddha is not a person to worship, but the awakened nature present in every being. The Dharma is not a set of beliefs, but the natural law of how things actually are. The Sangha is not an organization to join, but the recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness with all life. These jewels are not external objects to be sought, but aspects of our own deepest nature to be recognized. This is why Buddhism can be practiced by Christians, Jews, Muslims, atheists, and agnostics alike. It makes no competing claims about the ultimate nature of reality. Instead, it offers practical methods for investigating reality directly, without the mediation of belief systems or theological frameworks. The meditation practices that form the heart of Buddhist training are simply techniques for quieting the mental noise that prevents us from seeing clearly what is already present. As you lie here in the peaceful darkness, notice how meditation is actually the most natural thing in the world. Your awareness doesn't need to be trained or improved or purified. It simply needs to be recognized for what it already is. The various meditation techniques taught in Buddhism are like different ways of removing dust from a mirror. The mirror's capacity to reflect was never damaged, only temporarily obscured. Your natural awareness is like this mirror, perfect and complete, requiring only the removal of what has been covering it. The concept of enlightenment in Buddhism is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of this tradition. Popular culture presents enlightenment as some kind of permanent high, a state of bliss or supernatural insight that sets enlightened beings apart from ordinary humans. But the Buddha's own description of his awakening was remarkably simple. He said he recognized that all beings are already enlightened, but don't realize it because they are covered by delusions. The work of spiritual practice is not to achieve enlightenment, but to remove the obstacles to recognizing what we already are. This understanding transforms everything. Instead of seeking some future attainment, we begin to investigate what is preventing us from recognizing our present completeness. Instead of trying to become someone special, we explore the mechanisms by which we convince ourselves we are lacking something essential. This investigation is not philosophical, but intensely practical, as immediate and available as your next breath. Buddhism teaches that there are three fundamental delusions that keep us from recognizing our true nature: greed, hatred, and ignorance. Yet these are not moral failings to be overcome through willpower, but natural expressions of a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of the self. When we believe we are separate, isolated beings who must compete for limited resources, greed arises naturally. When we believe others can threaten our security or happiness, hatred follows inevitably. When we remain unconscious of our true nature, ignorance perpetuates both greed and hatred. The path out of these delusions is not through their opposite, but through understanding their source. We don't try to become unselfish, loving, and wise through effort and discipline. Instead, we investigate the belief in separation that gives rise to selfishness, the fear that creates hatred, and the ignorance that maintains both. This investigation dissolves these mental formations naturally, like sunlight melting ice, revealing the warmth and openness that were always present underneath. Feel into this understanding as your body grows heavier with relaxation. Notice how your sense of being a separate self who must achieve something spiritual begins to soften. What remains when this seeking energy relaxes is not emptiness, but fullness, not absence, but presence, not nothing, but everything appearing as nothing in particular. This is the taste of Buddhism as the religion of no religion, where all spiritual seeking resolves into simple being. The Buddha taught for 45 years after his awakening, yet he insisted that he had never taught anything at all. This paradox points to the heart of Buddhist wisdom. All genuine teaching simply points back to what the student already knows, but has forgotten. The elaborate philosophical systems, meditation techniques, and ethical guidelines that developed around Buddhism over the centuries are like scaffolding around a building under construction. Once the building is complete, the scaffolding is no longer needed. This is why Buddhism has always adapted itself to different cultures and circumstances. From the austere simplicity of early Theravada practice to the elaborate rituals of Tibetan Buddhism, from the intellectual rigor of Chinese Zen to the devotional warmth of Pure Land traditions, Buddhism has taken countless forms while pointing to the same formless essence. This adaptability is possible precisely because Buddhism is not wedded to any particular form or expression. In Zen, this flexibility reaches its ultimate expression. Zen masters have been known to burn Buddha statues to keep warm, declaring that the Buddha is not to be found in images or concepts, but in the living reality of this moment. They have torn up sacred texts, insisting that truth cannot be captured in words. They have shocked students out of conventional thinking with unexpected actions and paradoxical statements, all in service of pointing directly to the awakened awareness that needs no support from external authorities. Yet this iconoclastic attitude in Zen is not nihilistic or disrespectful. It arises from such deep reverence for truth that it will not allow truth to be reduced to any particular form or expression. The Buddha is honored most completely not by worshipping his image, but by recognizing the Buddha nature that was his deepest identity and is our deepest identity as well. The Dharma is served most faithfully not by memorizing texts, but by embodying the understanding these texts point toward. As your breathing continues its gentle rhythm, allow yourself to rest in this understanding. You don't need to become Buddhist to benefit from Buddhist wisdom. You don't need to reject your current beliefs or adopt new ones. You simply need to investigate your direct experience with the honesty and curiosity that the Buddha demonstrated. This investigation will naturally dissolve whatever is false and reveal whatever is true, regardless of what religious or philosophical framework you use to describe it. The religion of no religion meets you exactly where you are, without asking you to become someone else or go somewhere else. It recognizes that the sacred is not separate from the ordinary, that enlightenment is not different from this moment, that Buddha nature is not other than your natural awareness reading these words right now. This recognition requires no conversion, no initiation, no special preparation. It is as available to the skeptic as to the believer, as accessible to the beginner as to the advanced practitioner. This understanding brings us to one of Buddhism's most profound insights about the nature of identity itself. As your body continues to settle deeper into rest, consider how most spiritual seeking is based on the assumption that there is someone who needs to be saved, awakened, or transformed. Buddhism gently questions this fundamental assumption. Who is this someone? Where can this self be found when we look for it directly? The Buddha taught that what we call the self is actually a collection of ever-changing processes, rather than a fixed entity. Our thoughts arise and pass away like clouds in the sky. Our emotions flow through us like weather patterns, appearing and dissolving without a permanent owner. Even our bodies are in constant flux, replacing every cell over time, maintaining no fixed substance from moment to moment. When we search for the one who experiences all these changes, we find only the awareness in which they appear and disappear. This investigation is not meant to prove that you don't exist, but to discover what you actually are beyond all the stories and concepts you've learned to identify with. You are not the changing contents of experience, but the unchanging space of awareness in which all experiences arise. This awareness is not personal or impersonal, not yours or not yours. It simply is what it is, prior to all categorization. Feel how this awareness is present right now, requiring no maintenance, no improvement, no understanding to be exactly what it is. This is your Buddha nature, not as a philosophical concept, but as a living reality more intimate than your breath, more immediate than your thoughts. Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, simply points to this obvious yet overlooked dimension of your being. The practice of Buddhism, therefore, is not about becoming enlightened, but about recognizing that enlightenment is the very ground from which all seeking arises. Every moment of dissatisfaction, every spiritual longing, every meditation practice emerges from this enlightened awareness, like waves arising from the ocean. The waves are not separate from the ocean, and your experiences are not separate from the awareness that knows them. This recognition transforms our relationship with spiritual practice entirely. Instead of using meditation to achieve some special state, we discover that meditation is simply the natural resting of awareness in itself. Instead of trying to cultivate compassion, we recognize that compassion is what remains when the illusion of separation dissolves. Instead of seeking wisdom, we find that wisdom is what is looking through our eyes right now, reading these words, understanding without effort. The great Zen master Bankei expressed this beautifully when he spoke of the unborn Buddha mind. He taught that this unborn awareness is what you were before your parents were born, what you are right now, and what you will be after your body dies. It is unborn because it never came into being, undying because it was never born, perfect because it lacks nothing, complete because it excludes nothing. As you rest in the growing quietude of this evening, notice how this unborn Buddha mind is not something exotic or mystical. It is the most ordinary thing in the world, so ordinary that we overlook it completely. It is what is aware of these words, what experiences the comfort of your bed, what knows the peace of this moment without having to think about it. This knowing awareness needs no religion to support it, no beliefs to validate it, no practices to maintain it. Buddhism offers various methods and teachings, but all of them point back to this simple recognition. The elaborate cosmologies found in Buddhist texts, with their descriptions of multiple realms and countless beings, are maps of consciousness rather than literal descriptions of external realities. The detailed ethical guidelines are not commandments from a divine authority, but practical suggestions for living in harmony with our true nature. The meditation practices are not techniques for achieving altered states, but ways of removing the obstacles to recognizing what is already present. This is why Buddhism can be called the most scientific of all spiritual traditions. It makes no claims that cannot be verified through direct experience. It requires no faith in unseen entities or unprovable propositions. It simply invites investigation into the nature of experience itself, using the laboratory of your own awareness as the testing ground for truth. The results of this investigation are remarkably consistent across cultures and centuries. Whether in ancient India or modern America, whether practiced by monks in monasteries or householders in busy cities, the recognition Buddhism points toward remains the same. Awareness itself is naturally peaceful, naturally compassionate, naturally wise. These are not qualities we need to develop, but qualities that shine forth naturally when the clouds of mental confusion clear. Feel into this naturalness as your breath continues its effortless rhythm. Notice how awareness is naturally present without any doing on your part. Notice how peace is naturally available when you stop struggling against what is. Notice how love naturally flows when the barriers created by the sense of separation dissolve. This is the religion of no religion expressing itself through your direct experience. The Buddha compared his teaching to a physician's medicine, but he could have equally compared it to a mirror that simply reflects whatever appears before it. Buddhism doesn't add anything to your experience or take anything away from it. It simply shows you what was always already here, hidden in plain sight by the very effort to find it somewhere else. This understanding brings tremendous relief to the spiritual search. You don't need to become perfect, enlightened, or awakened. You don't need to transcend your humanity or escape from ordinary life. You simply need to recognize the extraordinary nature of ordinary awareness, the sacred dimension of everyday experience, the Buddha nature that is reading these words in this into this exploration moment. As we continue deeper, allow yourself to release any remaining effort to understand or achieve anything special. Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, asks nothing of you except the willingness to be exactly what you already are, to rest in the awareness that is already present, to trust the wisdom that is already operating through your life without your permission or control. This is not passivity, but the deepest kind of activity. Not withdrawal, but the most complete engagement. Not emptiness, but fullness beyond measure. It is the pathless path that leads nowhere except to where you have always been. The gateless gate that opens onto the realization that you were never outside what you were seeking to enter. The profound teaching of Buddhism as the religion of no religion reveals itself most clearly in how it dissolves the very ground upon which conventional spirituality stands. As your body grows increasingly still and your mind settles into deeper quiet, consider how most religious traditions offer elaborate maps of reality, detailed descriptions of divine beings, and complex theologies to explain the mystery of existence. Buddhism offers something far more radical. It offers the recognition that the mapmaker itself is an illusion. When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree 25 centuries ago, his great realization was not the discovery of new truths about God or the afterlife. His awakening was the recognition that the one who had been seeking enlightenment for 6 years through extreme practices and philosophical study simply wasn't there. The seeker dissolved, leaving only the pure awareness in which seeking had been appearing. This awareness needed no enlightenment because it was already complete, no salvation because it had never been lost, no improvement because it was already perfect. This recognition strikes at the heart of all spiritual seeking. Most traditions assume there is someone who needs to be saved, transformed, or elevated to a higher state. Buddhism questions this fundamental assumption so thoroughly that it dissolves entirely. When you look directly for the one who is reading these words right now, what do you actually find? Thoughts come and go, sensations arise and fade, but where is the thinker of thoughts, the experiencer of sensations? Feel into this inquiry as your breathing becomes more gentle and effortless. The more closely you examine your experience, the more clearly it becomes apparent that there is no solid self at the center of it all. There is simply experiencing itself, knowing itself, being itself, without need for a separate knower or experiencer. This is not a philosophical position to be debated, but a direct recognition available in this very moment. The absence of a solid self is not a loss, but the greatest discovery possible. It means you are not limited to the small story you've learned to tell about yourself. You are not confined to the particular history, personality, or circumstances that seem to define you. You are the vast open awareness in which all stories appear and disappear, the infinite space in which all experiences arise and dissolve. This awareness belongs to no religion and needs no religion because it is the source from which all genuine religious insight springs. Buddhism developed elaborate descriptions of this recognition over the centuries, speaking of emptiness and interdependence, of Buddha nature and the absolute. But these are fingers pointing at the moon of your own immediate experience. The moon itself cannot be captured in concepts or described in words. It can only be recognized directly, intimately, without the mediation of thought or belief. This directness is what makes Buddhism the religion of no religion. It bypasses all the usual machinery of religious belief and practice, pointing immediately to what is already present and available. You don't need to cultivate special states, achieve particular realizations, or develop extraordinary capacities. You simply need to notice what is noticing these words, what is aware of being aware, what is present before any thought of presence arises. The great Zen master Huang Po taught that the everyday mind is the way. Not the mind that is thinking and planning and worrying, but the mind that is simply aware, naturally present, effortlessly here. This mind needs no improvement because it is already perfect. No training because it already knows everything it needs to know. No salvation because it was never in danger. As your body continues to release into deeper relaxation, notice how this everyday awareness is completely ordinary, yet absolutely extraordinary. It is so natural that we overlook it completely, so obvious that it becomes invisible, so intimate that we search for it everywhere except where it actually is. Buddhism simply points out what was hiding in plain sight all along. This pointing is done through various skillful means, adapted to different temperaments and circumstances. Some people respond to meditation practices that quiet the conceptual mind and allow natural awareness to reveal itself. Others are awakened through intellectual inquiry that dissolves all the mental constructs that seem to obscure their true nature. Still others find liberation through devotional practices that melt the sense of separation between worshipper and worshipped. But all of these approaches are ultimately provisional, like medicine prescribed for a specific illness. Once the illness of spiritual seeking is cured through the recognition of what was never actually absent, the medicine is no longer needed. This is why advanced Buddhist practitioners often appear to abandon formal practice entirely. They have recognized that what they were seeking through practice was never separate from the one who was practicing. The Buddha himself exemplified this understanding. After his awakening, he continued to meditate, but his meditation was simply the natural resting of awareness in itself, rather than an effort to achieve anything. He taught for 45 years, but he insisted that he had never taught a single word, because truth cannot be transmitted through concepts. He established a community of followers, but he reminded them constantly that they must be lamps unto themselves, finding their own way to the same recognition he had discovered. This self-reliant quality is fundamental to Buddhism as the religion of no religion. It requires no external authority, no intermediary between you and truth, no institution to validate your understanding. The Buddha explicitly warned against making him into an object of worship, insisting that the true Buddha is the awakened awareness present in every being. To bow to a statue of the Buddha while ignoring the Buddha nature in yourself and others is to miss the point entirely. Feel how this understanding liberates you from all spiritual striving right here and now. There is nothing you need to achieve, no state you need to attain, no level of realization you need to reach. The awareness that is reading these words is already completely awake, already perfectly enlightened, already utterly free. It has never been bound by any of the stories about limitation and separation that have seemed so convincing. This recognition doesn't mean that meditation practice, ethical conduct, or wisdom study become irrelevant. Rather, they are transformed from means of achieving something to expressions of what has already been recognized. Meditation becomes the natural settling of awareness into its own nature, rather than a technique for changing your state. Ethics becomes the spontaneous expression of wisdom and compassion rather than rules imposed from outside. Study becomes the delightful recognition of truth in countless forms rather than the accumulation of spiritual knowledge. Buddhism's genius lies in its systematic dismantling of every concept and practice it introduces, including the concept of Buddhism itself. It offers elaborate philosophical systems and then points beyond them to what cannot be systematized. It provides detailed meditation instructions and then reveals that what you're seeking is prior to all instruction. It establishes ethical guidelines and then shows that true morality flows spontaneously from the recognition of our fundamental interconnectedness. This self-transcending quality makes Buddhism uniquely suited for our contemporary world, where many people are hungry for authentic spiritual understanding but allergic to religious dogma and institutional authority. Buddhism offers the deepest possible spiritual nourishment without requiring belief in anything that cannot be directly verified in your own experience. It provides the most profound liberation while demanding no allegiance to any external system or teaching. As you rest more deeply into this moment, allow yourself to taste this freedom directly. Notice how awareness is naturally present without believing in awareness. Notice how peace is naturally available without having faith in peace. Notice how love naturally flows without subscribing to any doctrine about love. This is Buddhism as the religion of no religion, revealing itself through your immediate experience rather than through concepts about experience. The path Buddhism offers is pathless because it leads nowhere except to where you have always been. The goal it points toward is goalless because what you seek is what is seeking. The teaching it provides is teachingless because truth cannot be contained in words or concepts but can only be recognized as the very awareness that reads these words, understands without effort, and knows without learning. This paradoxical wisdom continues to unfold in the most practical ways as we discover how to live from this understanding rather than merely thinking about it. The recognition of Buddhism as the religion of no religion transforms not only our relationship with spirituality, but our engagement with every aspect of ordinary life, revealing the sacred hiding within the mundane, the extraordinary concealed within the absolutely ordinary. This transformation begins to manifest in the most unexpected places as we discover that enlightenment is not reserved for meditation halls or mountain retreats. As your body settles even deeper into stillness, notice how the awareness that recognizes these words is the same awareness that experiences the softness of your pillow, the temperature of the air, the subtle sounds of night around you. This ordinary awareness, overlooked in its very obviousness, is what Buddhism calls Buddha nature, not as a religious concept, but as the living reality of this moment. The beauty of Buddhism as the religion of no religion becomes most apparent when we realize it makes no exclusive claims on truth, a Christian mystic discovering the same formless awareness in contemplative prayer, a scientist marveling at consciousness itself as the ultimate mystery, an artist losing themselves completely in creative flow. All are touching the same reality that Buddhism simply describes with different words. The finger pointing at the moon changes, but the moon remains unchanged, regardless of how many fingers point toward it or what names they give to its light. This universality arises because Buddhism points to what is most fundamental in all experience, what is present before religious categories arise, what remains when all spiritual concepts dissolve. It is the awareness that witnesses the Christian's prayer and the atheist's doubt with equal clarity, the consciousness that knows the Muslim's devotion and the agnostic's questioning without taking sides. This witnessing awareness requires no particular belief system to be exactly what it is. Feel into this neutrality as your breath continues its effortless rhythm. Notice how your awareness doesn't prefer pleasant thoughts over unpleasant ones, doesn't judge spiritual experiences as more valuable than mundane ones, doesn't require any particular content to be perfectly present and perfectly aware. This impartial presence is what the Buddha recognized as the true nature of mind itself, unconditioned by circumstances, unmodified by experience, unchanging in its essential nature regardless of what appears within it. The practical implications of this recognition are revolutionary. If awareness itself is already perfect, then your spiritual life becomes not about improving yourself, but about recognizing what was never actually broken. If consciousness is naturally pure, then purification practices become ways of removing what was never really there, rather than adding something that was missing. If your true nature is already enlightened, then the spiritual path becomes a process of subtraction rather than addition, of unlearning rather than learning, of remembering rather than achieving. This understanding completely reframes the purpose of meditation. Instead of using meditation to create special states or develop particular capacities, we discover that meditation is simply the recognition of awareness resting in itself. The various techniques taught in Buddhist tradition, from breath awareness to loving-kindness practice, are not methods for manufacturing enlightenment, but ways of removing the obstacles to recognizing what is already enlightened within ordinary experience. As your mind grows quieter in this deepening stillness, notice how meditation is actually happening by itself right now. Your thoughts are naturally settling. Your body is spontaneously relaxing. Your awareness is effortlessly present without any technique or instruction. This natural meditation is what Zen masters call shikantaza, just sitting, but it could equally be called just being, just resting, just recognizing what is already here. The same principle applies to Buddhist ethics. The precepts against killing, stealing, lying, and other harmful actions are not commandments imposed by divine authority, but natural expressions of wisdom. When we truly recognize our interconnectedness with all life, harming others becomes as impossible as deliberately burning our own hand. When we see through the illusion of separation, taking what belongs to others loses all meaning, because there is ultimately no other from whom to take anything. This ethical understanding flows from recognition rather than obligation, from wisdom rather than fear, from love rather than duty. It cannot be imposed from outside, but only discovered from within as the natural fragrance of awakened awareness. This is why Buddhist ethics never feel constraining to those who understand their true source. They are not limitations placed on freedom, but freedom expressing itself through form. Buddhism's approach to suffering reveals another dimension of its non-religious nature. Where many traditions explain suffering through concepts of sin, punishment, or divine testing, Buddhism sees suffering as a natural result of misunderstanding our true nature. Pain is inevitable in embodied life, but suffering, the mental elaboration we add to pain, is optional. This suffering arises not because we have done something wrong, but because we have forgotten what we actually are. Feel how this understanding removes all guilt and self-judgment from spiritual work. You don't suffer because you are bad or unworthy or spiritually deficient. You suffer because you have been conditioned to identify with thoughts, emotions, and sensations, rather than with the awareness that witnesses them all. This misidentification is not a moral failing, but a case of mistaken identity, as innocent as thinking you are the character in a dream rather than the dreamer of the dream. The path out of suffering, therefore, becomes a process of gentle correction rather than strenuous transformation. You don't need to destroy the ego or transcend the personality or escape from human life. You simply need to recognize what you actually are beneath all the layers of conditioning and conceptualization. This recognition often happens gradually, like clouds slowly clearing from a blue sky, but sometimes it occurs instantly, like suddenly remembering your own name after a moment of forgetfulness. Buddhism's emphasis on impermanence points to this same understanding from another angle. All phenomena arise, exist for a time, and then dissolve back into the space from which they emerged. This includes thoughts, emotions, sensations, and even the sense of being a separate self. Only awareness itself remains constant throughout all change, like the screen on which movies play, unaffected by whether the scenes are happy or sad, violent or peaceful. As your body grows heavier with relaxation, notice how this awareness is completely intimate, yet utterly impersonal. It is closer to you than your breath, more immediate than your thoughts, yet it belongs to no one and nothing. It cannot be possessed because it is what possesses, cannot be objectified because it is the subject of all experience, cannot be improved because it is already perfect in its simplicity. This impersonal intimacy dissolves the boundary between self and other that creates most human suffering. When awareness recognizes itself as the common ground of all experience, compassion arises naturally, not as a virtue to be cultivated, but as the inevitable recognition of unity. The suffering of others is recognized as our own suffering appearing in different forms. The joy of others is experienced as our own joy expressing itself through apparent multiplicity. Buddhism calls this recognition bodhicitta, the awakened heart, but it could equally be called love recognizing itself, consciousness knowing its own nature, or awareness delighting in its own infinite creativity. Whatever name we give it, this recognition transforms how we relate to all of life, revealing the sacred dimension that was always present but hidden by the assumption of separation. The great gift of Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, is that it offers this recognition without requiring you to abandon your current life or adopt a new identity. You don't need to become Buddhist, join a community, or follow particular practices. You simply need to notice what is already noticing, be what is already being, rest in what is already resting in itself. This noticing, being, and resting are available right now, in this moment, without preparation or qualification. Feel how this availability removes all the usual obstacles to spiritual understanding. You don't need more time because this recognition is timeless. You don't need better circumstances because awareness is equally present in all circumstances. You don't need more knowledge because this understanding is prior to all knowing. You don't need to be more worthy because awareness has no requirements for worthiness. This unconditional availability is perhaps the most radical teaching Buddhism offers. It suggests that enlightenment is not a rare achievement reserved for special people after years of practice, but the most ordinary thing in the world, so ordinary that we miss it completely while searching for something extraordinary. It is what is reading these words right now, what is aware of being aware, what is present before any thought of presence arises. The tradition of Zen expresses this ordinariness most clearly through its emphasis on everyday activities as spiritual practice. Chopping wood, carrying water, drinking tea, washing dishes, all become expressions of Buddha nature when performed with complete presence and attention. There is no hierarchy between meditation and daily life, no separation between sacred and mundane activities. Everything is equally an expression of the same awakened awareness. As your breath continues its natural rhythm, allow yourself to rest in this understanding. The awareness that is present right now is not different from the awareness that awakened the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. It is not less enlightened because it appears to be reading words rather than sitting in meditation. It is not more ordinary because it is functioning through your particular body and mind rather than through some idealized spiritual figure. This recognition brings tremendous relief to the spiritual search. You can stop trying to become someone else. Stop waiting for better conditions. Stop postponing recognition until you feel more ready or deserving. What you seek is what is seeking. What you long for is what is longing. What you hope to become is what you have always been. The religion of no religion reveals this not as a belief to be adopted, but as a reality to be recognized, not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. Buddhism's ultimate teaching is that there is nothing to teach, because what needs to be known is already known, nothing to achieve because everything is already accomplished, Know where to go because you are already here. This is not nihilism, but the deepest affirmation possible. Not emptiness, but fullness beyond measure. Not absence, but presence so complete it appears as nothing in particular. The pathless path continues to reveal itself as we discover how this understanding transforms not only our inner experience, but our engagement with the world around us. Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, offers not withdrawal from life, but the deepest possible intimacy with existence itself, revealing every moment as a fresh opportunity to recognize what has never been absent, never been other than what we are in our most essential nature. This intimacy with existence reveals itself most profoundly in how Buddhism transforms our relationship with the present moment. As your body continues to settle into deeper stillness, notice how this very instant contains everything necessary for complete of no religion, doesn't ask fulfillment. The religion you to transcend this moment, but to recognize its infinite depth, to discover the eternal hiding within the temporal, the absolute resting within the relative. The Buddha's teaching of mindfulness points to this same recognition through a different doorway. Mindfulness is not a technique for improving your attention or achieving greater focus, though these may be side effects. True mindfulness is the natural awareness that is already present, already attentive, already focused on whatever appears in the field of consciousness. It requires no development because it is what develops, no cultivation because it is what cultivates, no practice because it is what practices. Feel into this understanding as your breathing increasingly becomes natural. The subtle awareness that notices your breath is not separate from the breath itself. The consciousness that experiences relaxation is not different from relaxation experiencing itself. This seamless unity between knower and known, experiencer and experienced, is what Buddhism calls non-duality, but it could equally be called the most natural thing in the world. This non-dual understanding dissolves the artificial separation between inner and outer, self and world, spiritual and mundane, that creates most of our existential confusion. When awareness recognizes its own nature, it discovers that everything appearing within it is actually made of the same fundamental substance. Thoughts and things, feelings and phenomena, all are waves arising from the same ocean of consciousness, temporary modifications of the same unchanging awareness. The implications of this recognition extend far beyond personal spirituality into how we understand knowledge, relationship, and reality itself. If consciousness is the ground of all experience, then the subject-object duality that underlies scientific materialism becomes revealed as a useful convention rather than an ultimate truth. If awareness is what we most fundamentally are, then our relationship with others becomes recognized as consciousness relating to itself through apparent multiplicity. This doesn't diminish the relative reality of individual existence, but places it within a larger context that transforms its meaning entirely. You are still uniquely yourself, with your particular history, personality, and circumstances, but you are also simultaneously the universal awareness that appears as all beings, all experiences, all phenomena throughout space and time. This paradox cannot be resolved intellectually, but can only be lived as the natural expression of awakened understanding. Buddhism's approach to death illuminates another dimension of its non-religious character. Rather than offering consoling beliefs about afterlife or reunion with deceased loved ones, Buddhism investigates what actually dies and what remains unchanged through all transitions. When we examine our experience carefully, we discover that thoughts die moment by moment, emotions arise and dissolve continuously. Even the body is constantly changing at the cellular level. What is it that witnesses all these deaths without itself dying? This investigation reveals that what we most essentially are has never been born and therefore cannot die. Not because we possess some immortal soul or eternal essence, but because awareness itself is timeless, existing prior to the concepts of birth and death, beginning and ending. This timeless presence is not somewhere else or something other than what is reading these words right now. It is the very nature of present moment awareness, available for recognition in this instant. As your mind grows quieter in the deepening stillness, notice how this timeless quality is completely obvious, yet easily overlooked. Awareness has no age, no history, no future. It is always now, always present, always fresh and immediate, regardless of how old your body becomes or how many experiences accumulate in memory. This nowness is not a moment in time, but the timeless source from which the experience of temporal moments arises. The recognition of this timeless awareness transforms our relationship with aging, illness, and death from sources of anxiety into opportunities for deeper understanding. When we know ourselves as the unchanging witness of all change, the inevitable transformations of embodied life become like weather patterns observed from a place of safety and stability. We can be fully present with pain without being overwhelmed by it, completely engaged with life's challenges without losing our essential peace. Buddhism's teaching on karma reveals yet another aspect of its practical wisdom. Karma is not a cosmic system of reward and punishment administered by some divine authority, but simply the natural law of cause and effect operating through consciousness. Every action, word, and thought creates consequences that ripple through the web of interconnected existence, returning eventually to their source in modified form. This understanding makes ethical behavior not a matter of obedience to external commands, but of intelligent self-interest properly understood. When we truly recognize our interconnectedness with all life, harming others becomes literally self-defeating, because there are ultimately no others to harm. Helping others becomes the most natural expression of wisdom, because their well-being and our well-being are revealed as facets of the same unified reality. Feel how this understanding removes all the guilt, fear, and obligation that often accompanies religious morality. You don't need to be good to earn divine approval or avoid punishment. You are naturally drawn toward beneficial action, because wisdom recognizes that the welfare of the whole includes and transcends the welfare of the part. This is not sacrifice, but enlightened self-interest, not duty but joy expressing itself through ethical form. The Buddhist concept of emptiness points to perhaps the most radical insight of this tradition. Emptiness doesn't mean that nothing exists, but that nothing exists in the solid, separate, independent way we usually imagine. All phenomena are empty of inherent existence because they arise in dependence upon causes and conditions, including the consciousness that perceives them. This emptiness is not a blank void, but a fullness so complete it cannot be grasped by conceptual thinking. This teaching dissolves the solid reality we normally attribute to both problems and achievements, both suffering and enlightenment. When we recognize that all experiences are empty appearances arising in aware space, we can engage fully with life's drama without being trapped by it. We can play our roles completely while remembering we are not ultimately limited by any role we happen to be playing. As your body grows heavier with relaxation, notice how this emptiness is not abstract or philosophical, but immediately available in your direct experience. The thoughts appearing in awareness have no solid substance when examined closely. The emotions flowing through consciousness have no fixed location or permanent reality. Even the sense of being someone reading these words dissolves under careful investigation, revealing only the pure knowing that requires no knower to be perfectly present and aware. This recognition of emptiness paradoxically reveals the fullness that was always present, but obscured by our attempts to grasp and solidify experience. When we stop trying to capture reality in concepts and categories, we discover a richness and depth that concepts could never contain. When we release our grip on identity and achievement, we find a freedom and joy that no accomplishment could provide. Buddhism's genius lies in its systematic preparation for this recognition through graduated teachings, mine all that gradually under mental habits that keep us trapped in suffering. The early teachings on impermanence prepare the mind to let go of attachment. The middle teachings on emptiness dissolve the solid reality of what we were attached to. The advanced teachings point directly to the awareness that was never attached to anything because it was never separate from what it knew. Yet this progression is not linear or hierarchical. The most advanced teaching is present in the simplest instruction to be present with breathing. The deepest recognition is available in the most ordinary moment of awareness. The religion of no religion meets every student exactly where they are, offering precisely the understanding they are ready to receive, while pointing consistently toward the same goalless goal of recognizing what was never absent. This availability makes Buddhism uniquely democratic among spiritual traditions. It requires no special qualifications, no particular background, no preliminary beliefs or practices. The awareness it points to is equally present in the scholar and the illiterate, the saint and the sinner, the believer and the skeptic. This awareness is not more present in some people than others because it is the very ground of being that allows any experience of presence or absence to occur. Feel into this equality as your breathing continues its effortless rhythm. The Buddha nature that awakened under the Bodhi tree is not different from the awareness that is present right now. It is not more enlightened because it manifested through that particular individual at that historical moment. It is not less accessible because it is appearing through your unique configuration of body and mind in this contemporary setting. This recognition dissolves all spiritual hierarchies and comparisons, all seeking for teachers and teachings outside yourself, all waiting for better conditions or more advanced understanding. What you seek is what is seeking. What you long to become is what you have always been. What you hope to find is what is finding itself through your apparent search. The religion of no religion reveals this not as consoling philosophy, but as immediate reality, not as future possibility, but as present actuality. The pathless path of Buddhism continues to unfold its wisdom through the most practical aspects of daily living, showing how enlightenment expresses itself not through extraordinary experiences, but through ordinary awareness fully recognized and completely trusted. This trust in the natural perfection of present moment awareness becomes the foundation for a life lived in spontaneous harmony with the deepest truths of existence. This trust reveals itself most intimately in how we relate to the constant stream of thoughts that seems to define much of human experience. As your body continues to sink deeper into comfort, notice how thoughts arise spontaneously without your permission, exist for a moment in the space of awareness, then dissolve back into the silence from which they emerged. Buddhism, as the religion of no religion, doesn't ask you to stop thinking or transcend thought, but simply to recognize what remains unchanged, whether thoughts are present or absent. The awareness that witnesses thinking is itself never touched by the content of thoughts. It remains equally present whether the mind is busy with planning or quiet in meditation, whether thoughts are pleasant or disturbing, spiritual or mundane. This witnessing awareness is what you most fundamentally are, not the temporary visitor of thoughts that passes through it, like clouds across an empty sky. Feel how this understanding transforms your relationship with mental activity entirely. Instead of being at the mercy of whatever thoughts happen to arise, you discover yourself as the vast space in which all thinking occurs. Instead of identifying with the content of consciousness, you recognize yourself as consciousness itself, naturally free from limitation by any particular content that appears within it. This recognition extends to emotions with equal transformative power. The feelings that seem so personal and defining are revealed as impersonal energies arising in the universal field of awareness. Joy and sorrow, excitement and calm, all are equally expressions of the same fundamental aliveness that you are. None of them defines you because all of them arise within what you actually are. As this night deepens around you and your body settles into the profound stillness of complete rest, allow the timeless wisdom of Buddhism to continue working within you beyond the reach of conscious thought. The religion of no religion has revealed itself not as something to understand, but as what you have always been. Not as a teaching to remember, but as the awareness that is remembering itself right now. In the growing silence of sleep, may you rest in the recognition that what you sought through spiritual seeking was never absent. What you hoped to become through practice you have always been. What you imagined was distant and difficult is actually the most intimate and immediate reality. Buddhism dissolves into the very awareness that received its teaching, leaving only the boundless peace of your original nature, forever awake, forever free, forever home.